Ladies and gentlemen, welcome today. My name's Dean Rees and I'm your Mayor, and we'll be chairing this meeting, so thank you for everybody for coming. I just want to make a quick couple of points before we get underway, that today's meeting being a special council meeting, there will be no question time at the end. Certainly on each of the issues there is certainly question time from the gallery, and I look forward to your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, Clause 91.4 of the Governance and Meeting Conduct Local Law provides the following. The public meeting is being recorded to improve access to the meeting for our community. The recording will be retained by Council in accordance with Council's legal obligations, and as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. I wish to acknowledge that the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting here today, which we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and to the elders of other communities who may not be with us today. Could we please stand for the prayer? Almighty God, we humbly ask Thee to bless and guide this council in its deliberation so that we may truly preserve the welfare of the people whom we serve. Amen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, again, and we'll get the meeting underway. It's our first meeting for the year, and it is a special council meeting. As I said, please, we look forward to your questions during each of the items here, and but there will need to be no public question time under a special council meeting at the end of the closure of the meeting. So we're all present, and acceptance and apologies and leavers of absences, we don't have any, so we'll continue through with the meeting. So just to note, is there any conflict of interest on any items here tonight from any councillor or management staff today?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to declare a direct interest in item 7.1 as it deals directly with my employment arrangements.
Thank you, Brendan. As you don't have voting rights, you don't need to step out of the room, but no comment, thank you. We will hand it over to Sarah to read your recommendation for this item. So, starting off, we'll continue on with that, Sarah. 7.1, thank you.
7.1 CEO performance review and key performance indicators. So as part of the renewal of the CEO's contract last year, the CEO and councillors undertook a performance review and defined key performance indicators, or KPIs, by which the CEO's performance will be assessed in 2019. And the recommendation is that Council firstly accepts the previous performance review prepared by the CT Management Group of September 2018, and secondly that Council endorses the Chief Executive Officer's 2019 performance criteria.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience on that? Thank you. Thank you. Can I have a mover of that? Ashley Fitzpatrick and Councillor Clark. Thank you very much. Would anybody like to speak on the recommendation? Okay, if no one wants to speak again, sorry, Harry Bussell, Councillor Bussell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I look forward to Brendan's years ahead, because he's going to do some hopping, there's no doubt about that, and he's up to the job because he's certainly been delivering in the past. So thanks, Mr Mayor. I know he will deliver.
Thank you, Councillor Bussell. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Corporate Services, the mid-year budget review 8.1. Thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you. So this is 8.1, the mid-year budget review. This report is presented to Council to provide an update of Council's full-year forecast financial position compared to the adopted budget for 2018-19, and to propose that Council adopts the 2018-19 budget review as its budget reporting framework for the remainder of the 2018-19 financial year. Just a little bit of information about what's changed through the mid-year budget review. So Council officers have undertaken a thorough revision of the projected income and expenditure for this financial year. As was previously reported in the quarterly financial reports, there have been some substantial unfavourable movements earlier this year, and a lot of effort has been made by the organisation to find savings to counteract those. So specifically on the income statement, we're seeing a review of the projected surplus to decrease from 3.528 million to 2.325 million. Major changes are highlighted in the report. In terms of the unfavourable movements, this is principally down to an accounting adjustment of just under 1.5 million, which was made to the net gain on the sale of assets, and this recognises the written down value of assets due to sales for Murrell Street industrial land, Detour Road and the Ovens College site. Previously at quarterly finance reports, we've also shared the increase in depreciation of 852,000 and the adjustment for the increase in annual leave and long service leave that was as a result of the EBA approval of 526,000. To compensate for this, there have been a number of favourable movements by recognising salary savings from vacancies, reducing spend on projects such as the Christmas decorations, deferring a number of other projects, and increases in grant and interest income. What I would like to note on the income statement is that no allowance has been made at this stage for the impact of the flash flood recovery efforts, as we don't have all those financial figures in yet. Council estimates those may amount to about $500,000. In terms of capital works, the capital works budget is due to reduce from 39.59 million to 34.87 million. Again, all the details of that reduction are listed in the report. Primarily big movements due to the deferral of 5.5 million for the aquatics development, which we'll hear about shortly. Deferral on some other major projects for which work is expected to now run over 2 financial years, and a number of savings on other capital projects where we've been able to complete those under budget. Some works have also been brought forward to 18-19, and there are projects that are to undertake this year with some additional funding. So on that basis, my recommendation is that Council, having considered the 2018-19 budget review, adopts the budget review as the reference framework for future budget reporting on this financial year, and that Council adopts a reduction of 4.723 million in the capital works budget in the 2018-19 budget review.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions from the audience in relation to the budget review? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move an amendment to the recommendation. And the recommendation that is up on the board, by adding the words after the 2018-19 financial year and with an additional item of $50,000 for demolition of the fire damaged umpires room at the showgrounds. And 2, adopts a reduction of 4.723 million in the capital works budget. I'll move that recommendation.
Thank you. And Councillor Fuller to second that recommendation with Councillor Clark's addition for that recommendation. Thank you. Would anybody like to talk in relation to the budget? No. I thank you. I'll put it all those in favour. Oh, sorry, Harvey. Yeah. Thanks, we're all good. All those in favour? Carried. Okay, 9.1. Alan, thank you. Construction of Aquatic Centre.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report is brought to Council to consider awarding the contract for the construction of a new aquatics facility. This project has of course been around for a long time, in particular the last 4 years since the current aquatic strategy was adopted. Represents to this date thousands of hours of work by staff across all directorates in Council. It's been a long time coming, so it's nice that it's got to this point. The works include the 50-metre outdoor pool, the splash pad, the hydrotherapy pool, and a considerable amount of renewal work on the existing facility, including work in the plant and filter room, renewal of the concourse surface, a new boiler, etc. We've also included in the contract a project which isn't really part of the pool contract, but it made sense to include it, and that's the car park between Bar 1 and Bar 2 ovals. So this is a project that's been on the books for a long time, but it would have been silly to construct it before the pool, so we've tied it in with the pool contract so it all gets done at once. Those additional projects total about 1.358 million. Clear economies of scale doing it as part of this work. We went through a process of expressions of interest for this construction. We had 7 firms express interest. We considered all of those suitable firms, and thus we invited all of them to tender. 5 of those firms tendered. We then assessed their tenders against the adopted criteria under the scrutiny of the probity auditor. For those who don't know, any project over $1 million, we must have an independent probity auditor overseeing the whole tender process and evaluation process. And they've given us a report approving everything that went on. That evaluation resulted in a shortlisting of 2 firms, which was Browns and Wangaratta and Hanson Yuncken. And we then spent a considerable amount of time with those 2 firms really going through their submissions, really trying to fine-tune dollars and come up with a tender that was as close as possible to what we want to have delivered, and thus avoiding variations as we move along. As a result of that, we came up with Browns of Wangaratta. It should be worth noting that the tenders came in within about 3% of our budget estimates, which is probably a pat on the back to some of the staff for that. It's particularly difficult to estimate these types of projects. Whilst 3% represents a lot of money, 3% is a great result. We'd rather it was 3% under than 3% over, but 3% is still good. Perhaps part of that was we really strengthened up some of the specifications, and that was due to some issues other councils had with pools in recent times, Bendigo and Wodonga. We spent a lot of time firming up those specifications to better protect council as a result of the lessons learned from those 2 pools. So it may have cost us a little bit in the tender, but it gives us far better protection moving forward. So at the end of the day, we'll have a FINA-approved pool, which will allow us to host state events, state swimming carnivals. They require a warm-up pool as well as a competition pool. We'll now have that, the 25-metre indoor pool for warm-up and warm-down. We'll have a brand new hydrotherapy pool, and if you've been monitoring the news around the border for some time, there's an extreme shortage of hydrotherapy pools for people, our aged community and people with injuries and recovery, etc. So we expect to see a really significant increase in the use of that facility, and there's also a very strong feeling that as a result of a pool going in, we'll become the host for the North East Academy of Sport. North East is the only region in Victoria that doesn't have an academy of sport. It won't just be water sports, it'll be all sports to benefit from all of our young and aspiring athletes in the area. So a great result. So the recommendation tonight is on the screen. I won't read it in detail, but in short, it recommends an allocation of an additional $546,430.18 to the construction of the facility, to award the contract to Browns of Wangaratta, authorise the CEO to sign and seal the relevant documents, and to disclose the contract price. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any comment from the crowd, any questions from the gallery in relation to this pool, this tender? Mr. Fox, would you like to step forward?
Thank you. The right button.
Still not right? That's not. That's it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question tonight is in 2 parts. If you, as the chairman, have any objection to that, I'll meld them together. My first part is, what is the total dollar impost on the citizens of Wangaratta for this project? Now, I'd like the figure loud and clear. I know that we borrowed 6 million. I know that we've had donations from federal and state government. We've had a very small donation from the swimming club. The bit between that and the finished product, how much is that? Can you tell me that?
Yep, part one to your question, I'll hand over to Alan.
So part of the recommendation is that we disclose the contract price, but we probably have to go through that process before we disclose the price.
Perhaps just further to Alan's comment, if you're asking what council's contribution to the project would be, as opposed to the contract price, is that what you're asking, Brian?
No, I'm asking the difference between the donations, of which there are 3, and the final cost. We must pay off the 6 million, even though it's a low interest. We must pay off that 6 million. How much on top of that 6 million? Is it 7 million, 8 million, 9 million?
Okay, if that's the case, giving you that figure now would disclose the price before council's actually made their decision. So we'll give you that figure as part of disclosing the contract price, if you like.
And when, sir, will that happen?
In about 2 minutes. Once you've finished your second part of the question, we'll go through and hopefully the council will approve it, and then we can announce what the figure is. Alan will announce the figure.
Well, I have to ask you, Mr. Mayor, are all of the councillors aware of what this cost is? I certainly hope they do, because I would hate to think that they are going to vote to commit us to an amount of money that they don't know what it is.
Yes, we are all aware.
They're all informed. Thank you.
Correct. Second part of your question?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, councillors and our CEO and the council management team, I ask you, do you believe it is a responsible action on the part of myself and fellow citizens for you to commit around 10 million, I'm saying, but I don't know what the figure is, of ratepayer money to a single project? If you vote yes tonight, I will be writing to every sporting club within the rural city of Wangaratta, advising them that precedent has been set, and so an expectation of success in making an application to council for millions of dollars to support their club's endeavours would be a reasonable assumption. The recommendation, I believe, is wrong, and I do not rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Somebody might want to comment. They might want to ask me what I was talking about. So happy to do that.
If you give us time now, I said thank you. So we'll get to the formal stage, and people may comment on what you have said when we come to that stage.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the gallery? In that case, I'll pass on. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Bussell and Councillor Curry to second that motion. Thank you, Councillor Bussell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very, very big project for Wangaratta. And this is not just about building a pool, it's about building a town, building a city. That's what this is about, it's about building a city. And I must say, if you don't want to build a pool, just think about a town without a pool. And to grow a town, you need good facilities in this day and age. My vision for Wangaratta for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, the sporting precinct at the bar is front and centre of building a bigger town around it. It's It's very, very, very important. But I say, Mr. Mayor, it's not just about building a pool. It's not just a pool. It's the whole area that we're investing in, and the pool's a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Any other comment? Councillor Curry?
I'd just like to say that a lot of people don't like change. I'm not exactly too sure why that is, but people just don't like change. I think that's probably around habit. But if you really have a look at this, yes, there's going to be a large expense moving forward, but if you have a look at the Olympic pool as it currently stands, it was over 60 years. If you take that same type of expense and expense it over 50 years, they're ratepayers. Yes, we're spending their money, but we're spending it for the future. The payback over that period, when you really break it down, isn't that expensive. In fact, I think there's been some, if you put it in road terms, we're probably talking about half a kilometre a year that we're talking about that we could reseal a road. So this is about building Wangaratta for the future. This is something that people can attract and say that's new and that's vibrant. The management of the facilities between the indoor pool and the outdoor pool, it makes management sense, it makes financial sense. And if you talk about where the location is within the town, it's probably near one of the largest high schools where hopefully the swimming and so forth will to be trained and educated around swimming. It all makes sense in the location. So from Wangaratta's point of view, I think it's a project that is really important, and it's one that can set Wangaratta up in aquatics for a very long time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Curry. Councillor Fuller.
Just like to echo Councillor Bustle and Councillor Curry around that change notion and the need to spend for the future. If we get scared every time we see big numbers like this, then we won't be able to progress, we won't be able to grow this town like we all wish to do. So I find it very important that we actually move forward with this and do something for the future, knowing that this will be a long-term project that will last for longer than our legacy.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Would anybody like to speak against the recommendation? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. It's no secret that since my election to council, I've had misgivings about the expenditure on the new outdoor pool, and I'll certainly be casting my vote against the recommendation. Mr. Mayor, this is not the first time I've been the Lone Ranger in the council chamber, but I think I've mellowed a little bit in the 35 years since I tried desperately to stop the construction of the levee banks because of untruthfulness regarding their height. I was proved right then, and we have added almost a metre that I knew was required to make them safe for a 100-year flood at a great cost to our ratepayers. This recommendation being put to council tonight is, in my opinion, an impost on our ratepayers who will have a bearing on economic growth for many years to come. I was pleased for the administration when in July we were advised of success at our fourth attempt under Building Better Region from grant funding of $4.4 million toward the cost of an outdoor facility that was to cost $11.9 million. My first question is that if it had increased in cost over the 2 years, why didn't we request more from the federal government? I was then very pleased when our now Minister, among other portfolios of regional development, the Honourable Jacqueline Symes, announced a loan of $6 million at a very low interest rate in September from the state government's community sports infrastructure. I thought then we would then be able to construct the pool with the 1.6 from the state, 1.6 million from the state to construct the second hydrotherapy pool, 4.4 million from the federal government, 6 million from the state, and 100,000 from the swimming club. We now have 2 swimming clubs, and I know that back in the late 1980s, before a lot of people were around, there was an amount exceeding 110,000 in a separate bank account at WAW earmarked for a diving pool. I wonder what happened to that deposit, as with interest I calculated would now be worth approximately 160,000 if still in existence. Mr. Mayor, the latest aquatic centre that I can find being built was the new Bendigo Regional Pool, Wangaratta at Kangaroo Flat, at a cost of $34.4 million. Greater Bendigo boasts a population of 117,000 and rate revenue of 134 million in 2017-18. Therefore, I contend that we're around 25% of the size of Bendigo with a similar percentage of rate revenue. Bendigo had 59,160 rateable properties. Wangaratta has 15,588. So again, the percentage figure is around 25. But we're in the process of spending 16.5, give or take a little bit, which is a little more than 50% of the cost of Bendigo's pool, wellbeing centre and gymnasium, all built within that price. With us now being required to fund an additional 4.6 million in round figures, taking our borrowings to 10.6 for the project and using a population figure of 28,000, this equates to a cost on the capital cost for every man, woman and child in the rural city of $378.50. I also did some calculations of repaying the two loans back over a 10-year period. The 6 million on the interest rate of 1.67% and the other 4.6 at 4%. If these are paid quarterly, then over the 10-year period, the interest would amount to 1.535 million. I also know your council advised that visits to the aquatic centre per head of population was 4.73. This equates to a visitation rate of 133,000 for the year, or 364 patrons a day. So in my opinion, Mr Mayor, we are providing a facility in excess of $25 million for less than 1% of our residents. I do not wish to say that staff have not correctly reported the facts, but my recollection was to build a second hydrotherapy pool as the existing pool was oversubscribed. But page 13 on tonight's agenda states there are no current aquatic facilities within the region that are able to maintain the appropriate 35-degree temperatures necessary for hydrotherapy and injury recovery. This is a vital service for the health and well-being of residents, and access to facilities such as these are integral to the sustainability of rural and regional communities. The report states that a completed aquatic plan business case indicates that once developed, there are current demand levels within the region to support a 50% increase in hydrotherapy use in the first year. But we don't know what the requirements are, nor are we in the business of waving a magic wand. We're also told in the report that detailed business modelling and an economic impact statement has been done. I ask what councillor has been privy to this report, as well as the Parklands Master Plan, which is also mentioned. Mr Mayor and councillors, I trust that you now have some costings that accurately indicate the cost to our ratepayers. I've been endeavouring to have officers give councillors an update on the costings for more than 18 months, and there has certainly been a reluctance for this to occur. The recommendation tonight does not indicate that our loans and borrowing compared to rates will climb to 55% in this financial year, to 84% in 2019-20, and 90% of our rate revenue will be to repay loans in 2021, and it will be 2025-26, not the next council's term, but the one after, before our borrowings compared to rates drops back below 30%. Increasing borrowing costs in the short to medium term put pressure on council achieving an adjusted underlying surplus. So, Mr Mayor and councillors, it will be on your head on the chopping block when other economic development goes belly up. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I will put the motion. Sorry, Councillor Bustle, did you want to reply? Sorry, write a reply.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't see this as an expense, this is an investment in Wangaratta. And this will help the rural people, city people, young people, old people for 50 years. 50 years, it's a long time, long time. This is one of the greatest projects to build Wangaratta, and I hope that my colleagues vote for it, because I sure as hell want Wangaratta to grow quicker in the next 50 than it has in the last. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bustle. I'll put the vote forward. All those in favour, please raise their hand. All those against?
Have my vote recorded, please.
Sorry?
I have my vote recorded as voting against the motion.
Yes. Votes recorded. I'll declare the motion carried. Thank you.
Mr Moody, I need to declare the contract price.
Oh, sorry, yes.
And that gap that Mr Fox asked for. So the contract price is $16,882,298.18, and thus the gap that Mr Fox asked for is $10,882,298.18.
Thank you, Alan. 9.2, Morgan Road Drainage and Renewal Project.
Thank you, Mayor. So this project is a project to reconstruct the road, drains and other infrastructure in Morgan Road. It's been on the books for some time, as that road is one of our major flood issues within Wangaratta. It's been going for a fair while because we've been in negotiation with the landowners there. There's a portion of developer land there. We've been working with the landowners there to come up with a shared cost arrangement, which we've now achieved, and thus we're now proceeding. The project is actually split into 4 parts, and we're only talking about one part today. So the parts are an electrical substation, retention basin construction, a retention basin pump station, and then the road and drainage infrastructure. So this report today is about the road and drainage infrastructure. The other 3 components are already been handled. So the recommendation tonight is on the board, or I should note that with the various scoping changes, etc., the estimate or the budget is under budget for the work required, and so we're requesting to move some funds from another road drainage project that is coming under budget. So the recommendation is on the screen, but in short it's to approve the transfer of $120,000 to this project from the Wangaratta Eldorado Burke Road intersection upgrade project, to award the contract to Mitchell Constructions, authorise the CEO to sign and seal the contract, and it discloses the contract price.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions from the gallery on this project? Thank you. Can I have a movement of Morgan Road project? Councillor Bussell and Councillor Fuller, seconder. Oh, sorry, Councillor Benton. Sorry, Councillor Benton. Much better looking than Councillor Bussell. Would you like to talk on the...
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, to probably tell the community, this is a notice tidy up really the levy bank that Councillor Clark just previously mentioned. Come onto my radar, becoming a councillor, that Morgan Street Morgan Road had not had the required works done to finish off the drainage situation, and encumbering with the development out there, it's been able to really do a couple of projects in the one contract, Mr Mayor, and it's good to see that it's going ahead, but the disappointing thing in it, how things blow out to an enormous amount. When this was first muted in 1989, and it's actually recorded, and I did find the document where Councillor Clark voted against it, that it was $200,000 to do this work, and I think we're going to be far in excess of that. I have no privy to the amount of the contract at the moment. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thanks to Councillor Benton. Anybody else like to talk on that? Councillor Bussell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think this is quite an interesting project. The constituents from the Northern Ward should be very proud of their councillor out there because of his tenacity and the way he's pursued Morgan Road. So I think Councillor Benton needs to be congratulated there. Thank you.
Anybody else like to talk on that? No, I'm finishing off. Councillor Benton, no rebuttal, see? I'll put the motion forward. Is everybody in favour? Carried, thank you.
Mr Mayor, the contract price is $421,490.
Thank you very much. Development Services 10.1 is Inland Rail Track Corporation for the Inland Rail Project. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This item is about the Inland Rail Project, which is really to develop a spine of a national freight network between Melbourne and Brisbane. In Victoria, that spine follows the existing rail corridor. This project is being led by the Australian Rail Track Corporation, or the ARTC. I think it's worth just going back a little bit to September last year, when Council formed a formal position on this project based on the initial thinking from the ARTC. And that Council resolution is within the report. I might just for accuracy's sake, just recap what the position was back then. So the first point was to engage in meaningful consultation with the community and local agencies. The second point was to maintain the heritage look, feel and character of stations. The third point was to create and maintain all ability access from both sides of the railway precinct, including from any existing station buildings to new track locations. The next point was at the Wangaratta station to maintain dual tracks but move the tracks west of the station. Consider installation of drop tracks for the entire length of works to reduce the impact on existing structures. Fill in the created disused line and allow additional open space to be created, and consider the overall impact of a pedestrian underpass versus pedestrian bridges. For the Glen Road station, the resolution was to maintain current track location, alignment and level, and then a point was added for springers to consider all access requirements. Now, since that resolution was made, the ARTC has gone away and they've done a fair bit of additional planning work on this project, and specifically the sites that are within Wangaratta Council, mainly the Wangaratta Station Precinct and the Glen Rowan Station Precinct. The point in their planning work that was presented to Council in December is called their 70% design plans. And the proposal is that Council update its formal position on that project along the lines of the recommendation that's on the screen there.
Thank you, Stephen. Are there any comments from the gallery today on this, please? Yes, Megan, please step forward. It's going to make access for your bike. It will hopefully make it easier than climbing over the bridges, which is very hard for your bike at the present time. And in today's world, those bridges probably aren't legal with the gradient, etc. But the moving forward is for the underpass bridges, what ARTC are hoping to adopt to do, which will certainly make the access ramps very easy, where you could still ride your bike through those ramps and under the train line. You need to keep going, being active. Yes, some of us here too. But that'll be fine. We'll make sure that the connectivity between the two sides of the railway track with hospital, and we'll be making sure of that through Council, that it is appropriate for all users, whether in wheelchairs or scooters, bicycles and walking. Thank you, Megan. That's all right, but Alan will fix that, Megan. Thank you. Mr. Fox, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In this proposal, will the Sicily Avenue railway crossing stay as it is, with lights and
Hopefully not, but Stephen might continue that one further, because that is a fear of ours to a council, that the traffic inflows, as you're probably aware, that is our main corridor to our west area of Wangaratta, with the reconstruction of Osbaldeston Road and through to Cruise Street to our west end corridor. The traffic flows over the next 5 to 10 years will be greater, so a level crossing with double-decker trains going through will be a concern. But Stephen, you might continue on here.
Yes, so that concern has been raised through our consideration internally amongst officers as well, and the recommendation actually addresses that directly by adding a point there to ask the ARTC to consider the potential impact of increased train traffic on that crossing and also the Sanford Road rail crossing.
So the Sicily Avenue crossing, will that be an underpass or an overpass?
They haven't progressed that far enough, so we are actually asking them if this recommendation is carried, we'll ask them to take a look at that to understand the potential impacts, and also to make recommendations about what those crossings might look like in the future.
If in fact the Sicily Avenue crossing remains bars and lights, then there'd be no argument with opening the Faithful Street crossing. The one that runs down Faithful Street past 3 and E, and we were dudded when Wangaratta were dudded by the railways when the standard line went through and that crossing was closed. Now the same amount of trains go through Sicily Avenue as go through that crossing. So I can't see why we can't open it. It shouldn't be black and white. If we had it so the foot traffic or the road traffic was stopped at night or something, but black and white should not happen. There would be, if you counted the minutes that the trains actually crossed the Sicily Avenue crossing, it would probably be about 20 minutes out of 24 hours. So we've got to be practical, and we've got to look after the residents. And last time, as I say, we done it, and then we got a substandard overpass. So please, I'm saying to the officers, don't let it happen to us again. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. No other questions from the gallery? Well, thank you. I'll put the motion. Do we have a mover of the motion? Councillor Benton, and a second, Councillor Fuller. Would you like to talk on the motion, Councillor Benton?
I would like to put an addition to the motion by putting in a dot point at the end of the Springers station that your consideration considers all access requirements to the Springers station as we progress with this, because of the condition of the access into the Springers station isn't, in my opinion, and to all the councillors, I believe, and it's in line with the last motion we moved in September.
Thanks you, Councillor Benton. Councillor Fuller, are you happy with that recommendation to move forward as well as the seconder? Thank you. Would anybody else like to talk in relation to this? Councillor Bussell.
Mr Mayor, like I said before about the councillor from Northern Ward, he's at it again. He's batting very heavily for the constituents in the Northern Ward. He can be congratulated for that.
Thank you, Councillor Bussell. Would anybody else like to reply? Councillor Benton, back to you. Nothing further to say? I'll put the motion forward. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our special council meeting today. We thank you all for coming here in the gallery, and thank you for your questions. It's nearly the end of January, so we look forward to seeing you in our February meeting. So have a great day. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, now that the meeting's closed and you're no longer in charge.
I'm always in charge, Mr. Fox.
I know, you're no longer in charge. There's just a group of happy people. Right? If I was you, sir, I would be embarrassed that you didn't allow questions
Mr. Fox, you're not me, and I'm not embarrassed. This is the meeting procedure, and we followed that there. So if you'd like to talk to me about it privately at any other stage, you're most welcome to. But this to me is not my forum here. You're just wanting to make a spectacle in front of other people, and if that's what you choose to do, you can do that. I don't have to be a party to it. So you have a good evening, Mr. Fox.
That's all right.
It's the legislation. The legislation.